Hey, lovely people. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. Today, we're chatting to the wonderful Valentina from The Stars Inside. Valentina is a wedding and elopement planner, and her social media content is so inspirational and aspirational that as soon as I saw it, I knew that I wanted to chat to her for my podcast. Happily, she obliged, and we had a really nice discussion all about that dynamic between you as a couple and the wedding suppliers that you work with. It's so important to look beyond the brand and connect with the people that are helping you to create your dream wedding. It was really, really wonderful to listen to Valentina's take on her business, how she works with her clients, what she plans for the future. And I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. If you've not listened to any of my podcasts before, there are loads and loads of episodes for you to go back and enjoy, where I chat to tons of equally talented and inspirational wedding suppliers. And there's lots more episodes of this season to come too. So do make sure that you subscribe and be the first to be notified when a new episode becomes available. But for now, I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of the lovely Valentina, and you can listen to our wonderful chat from a little earlier in the year. Enjoy. Good afternoon, Valentina. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of my podcast. Can you just tell everyone who you are and a little bit about your business?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me, Ross. I'm super excited to be on the show. Thank you. So my name is Valentina, and I'm a wedding and elopement planner. I'm based in London, but I actually work all over. I love traveling. Travel's been a big part of my life, and so now it's a big part of my work. And my company is called The Stars Inside.
Which is a beautiful name, The Stars Inside. Where did that come from?
Yeah, it's really special to me. I remember when I was brainstorming it, a few things came out, and you know how they don't click for a while. You just think like, oh yeah, like that could work. And in the wedding planning world, a lot of people use their name.
Yeah,
And
sure.
my name is objectively quite romantic.
It is very
um,
romantic.
in Italy, it's actually, I'm Italian, and the name Valentina is actually super common in Italy, but here in the UK, it does have a little bit of a sort of connotation of romance and exoticism. So I
Yeah.
could have gone for it, and my married name is Ring, my surname. So again, that's like pretty much
All
as soppy
fits.
as it gets.
Yeah.
But it almost felt too soppy. It almost felt like it was just too saccharine. So I ended up thinking it would be exciting to create a name which I could evolve with me, if I ended up,
Sure.
if the brand ended up being more than just wedding planning one day, or, in whatever direction it ends up, naturally heading. So it kind of came from combining all the different bits of my background. So I have a background in science and in arts. And so I wanted something that kind of conveyed the fact that as humans, we're like more than the sum of our parts, and that there's
Yeah,
all these things
totally.
inside of us which are just kind of infinite and complex and mysterious and magical. And so that was kind of what I was trying to convey. And it kind of also pays homage to one of my backgrounds, which is in astrophysics. So it kind of touches on
Wow.
the celestial theme. So it has a lot of different layers for me. And I love that it tends to stick in people's minds, which is really special for me.
It absolutely does. It's got that air of intrigue, like you say, and romanticism, but it's just you want to know more when you hear that name, especially, and I've known my business after myself, as you say, a lot of people do, but sometimes there is that added sort of interest from people when you've got a unique name, and if you're going to sort of branch out and do all sorts of different things, it's beautiful. Yeah, so we love the
Thank
name, so
you.
that's a great
Thank
start.
you.
So you mentioned briefly that you're an astrophysicist. Is that right? Have I said it right?
Well, By training, yes.
by training. But I've read you've done all sorts of jobs. So what has been your life before weddings?
Yeah, so I'm not one of those people who, was going to be a wedding planner since I was 5. That's not me. I actually, I was always kind of torn growing up between the part of me that loved like maths and science and the kind of geeky side of me, and then the more artsy, creative side. I've always painted and sketched, and I always thought I might go into a more artistic route. But then when it came to it, I went to high school and I was good at physics, and people were like, hey, you should do physics. And I kind of fell in love with astronomy when I was a teenager, and I ended up following that part of my heart. And so I came to the UK. I'd never been here before, but I applied to universities here, and I did a master's in astrophysics and at the University of Bristol. And I absolutely loved it. It was great. But I kind of got to the end of that, and you don't really ask yourself with something like that, like there's a very obvious post-master's situation,
Of
which is
course.
just doing a PhD, and
Yeah.
it's just what everybody does, and academia is just the way people go. So I kind of just assumed that was going to be my next step, and when my supervisor invited me to do a PhD, I was like, yes, this is what's supposed to happen, I'll carry on. And so I started a PhD. And that's when life sort of started getting a little bit, plot twisty, where I actually had to suspend the PhD for a while because I wanted to go live with my mom, who had been diagnosed with a terminal illness. And I thought, I
No,
can't not be with her,
no, of course.
So I went to live in Italy for, was it about 6 months by the end of it. And then after she passed away, I came back, and I tried to pick up life where it was, but it just doesn't really work like that
No,
sometimes.
not at all.
There was a part of me that almost didn't want life to just carry on. I just felt like, well, something massive's happened to me, like things have to change.
Yeah.
So I tried to carry on the astrophysics PhD for a bit, but I was really honest with my supervisor. I just said, look, my heart isn't in this. Like I might need to go find something else. And
Sure.
he knew me really well, and he said, you take your time. And that's when I started applying to all kinds of things. I was finding exercise and physical pastimes very therapeutic at the
Okay.
time, when I was, in a bit of a dark place, and just getting myself out there and, getting out of my own head. It was really helping. And so I applied to a lot of jobs that were very physical. I even applied to be in like the police, and anyway, a lot of really random things. And I was living in Bristol at the time, and I discovered that Bath University has a course in um, contemporary circus and physical performance. And at the
Wow.
time, I had no idea what that was. But basically, it's a degree that you do that combines circus skills with theater performance. And I just auditioned, and they thought it was hilarious that someone with a master's in astrophysics was there, and I thought it was crazy that they were even letting me audition. And when they accepted me, I thought, like, this is something for me to immerse myself into. Like, I didn't go to that thinking I'll be a performer forever, but for me, it was just an amazing way to get myself out of a difficult time.
Yeah, it was right at the time.
And yeah, for sure. And it's such a fascinating thing to learn about from nothing. And so I did 3 years of that. I became a trapeze artist. I performed. I got past some really, really tough insecurities, and just kind of helped me get through a really, really tough time. And by the end of that, I felt ready to pick up my physics degree and maybe do something where I could use all of the kind of confidence that I had gained.
Sure.
And that's when I moved to London, and I applied to an investment bank, and I became a stock trader for 3 years.
Wow, that's
And so I
completely
did
different.
that.
Yeah.
And that was, again, great learning. Not right for me, though, for sure. Definitely wasn't right for me. But, an amazing place to be for a while. It allowed me to save up some money to then get married. It also taught me a lot about just working with difficult people, and it also taught me how to be in society, because after you're in the circus for a while, you kind of lose track.
In your own
So
bubble, I suppose, yeah.
um, and it wasn't really until a few years into that I started planning my own wedding, and fell in love with the wedding world by being a client. Like I was working with a wedding planner, and I just loved what she did for us. Our wedding venue went bankrupt quite far into the process, and she
Oh
was the
no.
one who like picked us back up and got us excited about the wedding again. And she was just incredible. And she saw how much I was enjoying it, and she was the one who said, like, have you ever, thought of doing this? And at the time I was kind of hating on the bank, and I thought, what? Now that she said that,
Yeah.
that seems like an amazing thing to do. And it felt very organic. Like I took my time considering it. I started like sort of creating a brand, but without to see what would come out, not knowing whether I would actually do it. And I started doing like training courses and internships and like work training and stuff, just to see like, is this it, and it was
Yeah.
it. So
Fantastic. That's so great that it came from such an inspirational wedding supplier that you experienced. Because a lot of the time when I talk to people who are already married, their wedding business grew from a lack of a service that they couldn't find when they were planning a wedding,
very
or,
true.
or a bad experience. So it's really nice that you've come into the industry from a great experience. That's a real
Yeah.
positive, I think.
And she, in a way, like she could have thought of me as competition, but
Yeah,
instead we became friends, and she said, you've got a passion for this, and you've got the skills for it, and you've got the creativity, and you've got the logistical bits of you. And she really kind of let me allow myself to see that this could be a possibility. And I'm so grateful, so
that's
grateful.
fantastic. That's really fantastic. And that leads nicely into what we're going to be talking about today, which is building that relationship between the couple and the supplier. So, as I said, most people listening are people planning their wedding and they're finding their supplier. So, we're going to chat today and just help them to identify what makes a good supplier for them and find people that they can really trust and bond with. And I know that's something you're very passionate about yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I consider it to be one of the single most important things I can do in my role as a wedding planner, is just connecting people who
Yeah,
not only are going to, bring something to life together, but not just that. Like what I hope to see is, you know, couples who end up following those suppliers for years after their wedding because they love their work,
yeah,
or who
totally.
keep in touch, or even within the team, to see suppliers become each other's biggest fans. And like that's what I really hope to see. And that comes from being very intentional with the suppliers that I suggest to each of my
Yeah,
couples. So that process looks a bit like, it depends on the couple, because sometimes couples have super, super clear visions on who they want, and that's great.
yeah,
And sometimes they don't, and that's also great. I kind of take my cue from them. So depending on how much they already know about who they're looking for, I will then go on a hunt with the information that I have. And if I haven't been given that much information, the hunt is quite wide, and I might end up with quite a few names. If
yeah,
it's very specific, then I might just end up with like 2 or 3 who I think are absolutely perfect. Um, and I look at things like, of course, the budget alignment. I'll have a sense of the couple's budget, because before I go looking for suppliers, we create a breakdown together that's kind of
okay, yeah,
approximate.
brilliant.
Um, and then, so I have a sense of like where that supplier needs to sort of ballpark be. And then I have a sense of where they need to be geographically, if that affects them. It doesn't affect all suppliers, but it does some. So keeping that in mind. Um, and definitely style and personality. So I try and get to know my couples super, super well. And that really helps when I'm connecting them to suppliers,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I'll have a phone call with the supplier, or a video call, or one day in the real world be able to meet and have a coffee. And then that kind of allows me to think like, what, these guys are just going to click. They're just going to get each other.
Yeah,
I don't know, this florist is going to hear the bride's vision and go, yes, I can't wait to, make that, and, love that brief. So I really try my best to kind of match make, as it were,
yeah,
with suppliers. And so that process kind of takes me as long as it takes me. Obviously, I I will, I'm very careful with it. So sometimes if it's quite a broad brief, as I say, it might be that I start from the suppliers I know and love and trust, and then I go out searching for some that I've maybe never come across, because I always want to start that search from scratch. I don't want couples
Of
to feel like
course.
I'm just, picking out of the usual pool. Like I want them to know that the people I suggest I really trust. I really like. I believe in their work ethic. I love their work,
Absolutely.
and they align with them, and that I've gone on that search bespokely for them. So like
Yeah.
I do have like a massive black book of people whose work I love, but I will always start from scratch when it comes to that search.
That's really cool, really cool. And just picking up on something you said about, the florist being excited to work with them, because it is a relationship, um, especially when you're working with the more creative suppliers. And obviously, um, you can boil it down to a real simple, you're getting paid to do a job. But I think it's so much more than that in the wedding industry. It's about making someone's dreams come true. And I think the more you get on with the couple, from my point of view, um, you want to do your best. I want to do my best for all the couples. But when you get to know them, and you think of shots that will work for them, or locations that are going to look really great. And I think when you gel, and when you pick the right suppliers and that relationship works, the quality of the service from your suppliers is just 100 times better, from my experience.
I totally agree. And ultimately for me, there's two things to that, which is the first is, as a planner, obviously I'm hired by the couple.
Yeah.
I'm on the couple's side 100%, but I have a very privileged position in the sense that I have visibility on the supplier's needs and
Yes.
their dreams and their aspirations for their businesses, right? So what I want is to bring them couples who will be part of that portfolio they're super proud to show off, because they've created something that aligns with their brand, their
Yeah.
aesthetic, and their
Totally.
values. And because it's exactly what you said, because of that, they're going to want to do an amazing job. They're going to work hard and be happy to, like, they'll feel rewarded from working hard. And that's what I want for all the suppliers that I work with. So that's part of it. And also, I think for me, because I specialize in slightly sort of smaller than average weddings, and
Yeah.
that's kind of something that's happened quite organically over time. And so that relationship between the couple and the suppliers becomes even more tight knit, even more
Yes.
intense, because they do see each other, they do speak. Sometimes the staff outnumbers the guests, like that there needs to be, like a familiar sense of, this
Totally.
isn't a stranger, this is someone who's part of the memories of our day, and
Exactly, and can have a huge impact on how they feel on their wedding day.
yeah,
'Cause, I
100%.
mean, you as a wedding planner, myself as a photographer, we're there for the whole journey, which is a real privilege, I think.
Yeah,
We meet them
it really is.
maybe a year, 2 years before their big day, and we're still there right up to the day, on the day itself, and for me, beyond the day, because they order albums and prints and all that. So it's a real relationship that you build up. So there is a responsibility from my end, especially, to make them feel great, make them feel excited, make them feel
Yeah,
comfortable.
yeah,
And I know you'd agree that our responsibility as well is to bring out those true personalities in the suppliers as well, and in the suppliers, yeah, but also in the couples, and
yeah. No,
really make them
100%.
feel happy being themselves.
Yeah, and that's something that I think it's an industry that is fueled by creativity and hard work, but also emotions. It's a very
Yeah,
emotional industry. It's a very emotional journey. And sometimes not all couples will feel themselves through that journey. They might feel like the whole wedding framework is just a bit odd for them. It doesn't quite feel
yeah,
right. And it's not really until they feel they can trust and be open and be honest with their suppliers that that magic does happen. Like if they were to say to a celebrant, like, we feel a bit weird about this whole marriage thing, can we make this ceremony really personal, can we make it ours, can we get to know each other, like that's wonderful to me. Like, or if they can say to a venue or a florist, like, we feel a bit odd about how formal it is when everyone sits on tables and stares at each other. Like, can we make it more social? Can we make it more intimate? And that's all about making the day, personal to them,
Yeah,
unique to them, and perfect for them, not in an absolute way, but in a very relative way.
yeah, totally. And I think a lot of couples are fine having those conversations straight away, and I think there
Mhm.
are other couples that struggle in not even being assertive, but just being open. And
Yeah, of
I think it's
course.
important to give couples permission to have the ultimate say, because I
Yeah,
think
of
when you're
course.
entering into a wedding, it's usually for the first time.
Yeah,
There's this big industry, there's all these so-called experts, and I've seen a lot of couples feel that they have to sort of fit into a certain mold or have a certain wedding, and I see once they realize how much control and how much say and how much of themselves they can put into it, that they're a
yeah,
lot more excited, they're a lot more happier, and that
yeah,
those stress levels seem to really come down.
yeah. I think for me, I don't think I knew this when I started my business, but I know it with a lot of certainty now, which is like the single most important piece of advice or value or agenda or mission or whatever we want to call it is giving them that permission. Like for me, like knowing that it breaks my heart when I start working with a couple and they say something like, "Hey, so do we have to do this thing that we really don't like?"
Literally, yeah, I'm the same.
And for me, I just like, no, please. And obviously, there will always be reasons why,
Yeah,
you
and
know, you,
practicalities.
yeah, there'll be practicalities. There might be also, delicate relationships in the family, and you
Yeah,
want to pay, your respect and homage to a family tradition, for example.
yeah,
But there, there are always ways to make it meaningful to you, to make it right for you. And if it isn't right for you, the people you love actually don't want you to do it. They may not be great at showing you that, but they don't actually want you to do it. If they love you, they will understand that you did it for the right reasons. And that's so, so important. And I feel like sometimes a bit of a broken record on social media, but I feel like all I talk about is like, do what you want to do.
I feel the same with these podcasts because I feel like I say the same thing every episode, but it's so important. It's so
Yeah,
important. It is all
yeah,
about you. That it's your wedding. And it's not about showing off. It's not about fitting a mold. It's about the two of you coming together. And it sounds cheesy because it gets wheeled out quite a lot, and I think some of those words become a bit empty and a bit of a
yeah,
soundbite. But it's really true. Everything starts with you as a couple, and who you are,
yeah.
and it's
And
about
ultimately, that'll be more memorable for your guests too. Like you're ultimately, you might think your wedding has to look a certain way or feel a certain way, or tick certain boxes. But actually, what your guests want is they want to see you have an awesome time. They want to see you laughing the whole time, dancing, having fun. They want to see you like eating your food and drinking your drink and
yeah,
dancing your music. Like they want to see you having an amazing time. And for them, coming away from the night thinking, oh my God, that was like a whole evening of, you know, Hannah and Jeff. Like that felt just like
yeah.
them. And that's actually what they want. And so you can
Totally,
give
and
it to
they
them.
do take their cue. I always say guests take their cue from the couples. So if the
Yeah,
couples are relaxed, having a great time, guests will. If they see the couple getting a bit stressed or anxious about little details, they'll put their guests on edge as well. So I think that,
yeah,
if you are worried about your guests, what they're going to think or what they're going to say or them having a good time, just focus on you and you having a good time, and automatically you'll create that energy at your
yeah.
wedding.
And ultimately, like that doesn't mean what I'm not saying is don't think about your guests. I mean, that's obviously
So,
not what either of us are saying. But I think for those couples who are able to be very intentional about their own um, priorities, it also allows them to be more considered when it comes to the actual guest journey. So actually
yeah,
by stripping things back and being like, okay, like what really matters to us? Okay, amazing food, amazing drink, amazing music or whatever. And then they're thinking, okay, well, this is how the guests are going to feel. These are the things that are going to have an impact on how much of a good time the guests have. And what is it going to be like for the guests walking into this space, and what is it going to be like for them watching us eat this amazing cake we're super excited about. Like, just by taking that time to really break it all down and really ask yourself, like, does this matter to me? Am I doing what I want to do here? That's automatically going to get you into a mindset of thinking about how the guests are experiencing it. So the two things aren't mutually exclusive, at
No,
all.
absolutely. That's a really good point. And I think, most of your guests are going to be there because they love you, because you're either related to them or you're a close friend of them, and you come together because you've got things in common. There's some reason why you're in contact and you're friends with the people that are at your wedding. So again, the same should apply. Going back to your supplier, there should be a reason, aside from just the job they do, and hopefully all the suppliers you have do their job well, whether it's a planner or a florist or a photographer. But again, it's more than that, isn't it? It's having people there that you have things in common with, that you have that rapport with. And that's why, like with you and like with all the guests on this podcast, I asked them about what they did before they started their wedding business, because it says a lot about who they are. It says a lot about what they can bring to their job as well, I think. And like you say, I see a lot of people talk about, and there's nothing wrong with it, where they've dreamed of doing this job their whole life, and that's
of course, no, that's wonderful.
But I think you have to put yourself into your business, and let your guests see that side of you.
Yeah, no, and I actually think it's something I learned quite slowly, but I'm almost kind of glad about that, because I feel like it happened in a more organic way, which is that I think I started my business and I was very concerned about being the wedding planner, being a, serious professional wedding planner that people wanted to trust, and spoke in a certain way and looked a certain way and used certain colors on her grid. And then it wasn't really until I started connecting with couples, like, almost gave me the confidence to be more myself,
Absolutely.
And then in turn, you encourage them to be more themselves. And then it's kind of this wonderful feedback loop. And over the course of, my business is almost 3 years now, 3 years old. And I really feel like now I'm, it's still super scary, but I'm more able to find that courage to just be myself on social media, be myself on my website. And it's paying off by connecting me with more couples who seem to kind of resonate with me, which is, again, the most rewarding thing. But I certainly think that the more a supplier is able to show us why they're irreplaceable, why they are them and they are awesome, and the couple wants them, and, explaining the value of what they do and what's different about them, and why, why it's important for the couple to know that, I don't know, like, maybe sustainability is at the heart of your business, or maybe creativity, or maybe fashion or art, or whatever it is, that's driving you, to let that shine, because that's what's going to make the couple go, oh, I don't need to see anyone else. I want this person.
Yeah. And I think that's what couples should look for. I always say, look beyond that product, if it's photography, obviously it's really important that you love the look of their work, and you love their style and all that, but there's so many photographers that you have so much choice that you don't have to compromise one for the other. So just because they're great at what they do, if you sort of something doesn't feel right, whether that's when you're reading about them, following them on social media, or after you've met them in person, it doesn't quite feel right, there's always going to be somebody who does feel right, who's still sort of got that visual style, or does the service that you're looking for. So I think, whilst it's hard for people in the industry because it is a saturated market, it does give couples choice. So I always say don't compromise. And I was the same as you when I started, knowing how much of yourself to put out there, what was sort of too personal, too unprofessional. I've said this many times before, I was told by another photographer to sort of keep LGBTQ stuff separate because it might put off families or certain couples. And I listened at first because, like you, I was like, okay, this is what a photographer should do, what they should wear, how their website should be, what they should and shouldn't say. And it didn't fit right, and I wasn't booking the right clients until I was like, this is me, this is my partner, and all of a sudden you're showing more of yourself. People tapped into who I
Oh, that's
was,
beautiful.
and then,
Yeah.
I've got clients where, I've got to be comfortable being myself as much as they have.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, sharing some of your vulnerabilities is a real strength as a supplier. It
Oh,
doesn't
for
mean you're not
sure.
professional, but from my point of view, I get a lot of couples that maybe, they aren't comfortable in front of the camera, or, all of us have something about us physically that we don't love, or we want to sort of minimize in front of the camera. And I think by being a bit vulnerable, or being honest about who you are, I've drawn those people that feel comfortable with me saying,
Yeah.
I don't like my size of my hips, or I don't like my height,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
all of those little things. That's really important to me,
Yeah.
because I want to be known for great work, but I want to be known for somebody that's listened to, somebody people feel comfortable with. And going back to my pre-photography career, I didn't have a camera at 5, I didn't have a camera at 20, but I worked with people. I work with people with special needs. I work with adults with dementia. That's my background. So that's a huge part of what I do. I'm not just someone that takes photos. So, I mean, again, the same with you. You love weddings, but you love working with people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I think it's almost a process of rehumanizing the relationship, because you put yourself out there and you're like, I'm a business, buy from me. And then you have to kind of break all of that down and be like, yeah, but I'm actually a human, and this is why. Like,
Yeah,
and these are my vulnerabilities. And obviously there's a line,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
as a wedding planner, I always want my couples to feel that they can trust me, that I'm there for them, that I'm going to handle whatever is thrown at me at any level of pressure. I'm going to handle it, and it's going to be fine. But I also want them to know that, I have a life, I have a husband, I have,
Yeah,
my mom passed away, so I miss her sometimes, and sometimes my social media posts are sad, and that's just how it is. Sometimes
yeah,
it is what
you're
it is, and
human.
it allows them to say to me, like, you know what, my relationship with my mom is tough, and right now, wedding planning is really straining that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, all those life experiences that we've had. We're not the only ones that have had them, So
Yeah.
it is really important for couples, look beyond the brand a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily looking for someone that's had exactly the same experience as you.
No, of course.
But if there's somebody honest enough to say, you know, I'm not feeling great today because of this, or that it draws people in, it and it makes you real. I think that's why I was saying, I always say to my guests before the podcast, we're recording one go, we make mistakes. Sometimes I listen back and I'm like, what are you rambling on about, Ross? But it's me, I garble, Sometimes the post comes through the door and interrupts, and sometimes the sound isn't 100% perfect, but I'd rather that than everything being crisp and clinical, because as beautiful as the wedding industry is, it's about people, and people aren't perfect at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I use this term sometimes, and I don't know if it's not everyone's sort of cup of tea or way of thinking about it, but like I do really think of myself as like a friend to the couple. Like,
Yeah,
and I know that I'm a business owner, of course, and of course they've hired me for a service, of course, all of that goes without saying. But my approach to our relationship is that of a friend, in the sense that I will listen to you, I will care about your wedding like crazy at all hours of the day, and I will be empathetic if something's gone wrong and it's really
totally.
tough. Or like now, where you're postponing your wedding and you're heartbroken and you're lonely and you feel like you can't talk about it because the world's gone crazy, or whatever it is. And that's my approach to the way that I work. And so, that's something that I think I think couples, every couple's different, but I think having that partnership with suppliers is
Yeah,
what's going to make that whole journey fun, not just the day. It's like the whole journey is making decisions together, getting
yeah,
excited about stuff together, prioritizing things in a smart way. Because, you know, if you feel really comfortable with your florist, you can be like, look, this is our budget. This is what we're excited about.
Yeah.
Can you help us find a creative? There's loads of music coming from outside.
I can't hear it. You're okay. It's fine. Someone's
Yeah,
being
so
creative outside. That's fine.
can you help us find a way that's creative and exciting and different and a bit unique to make the most of our budget? And then it's almost like a bit of a, you know, you've gone on this little kind of riddle solving experiment
Yeah.
together. What can we do in this venue together, you know? And that whole process should be fun. It really shouldn't
Yeah.
just be the day.
Totally. And you mentioned the word we, and I think that's really important. I want my shoots to be collaborative. So if you've got an idea or you want to try something, let me know. Or if something just doesn't feel right, let me know. And I think it's like I say, it's a journey together. It's you and your partner, but also it's you and your suppliers. And they should be using that kind of language. I think if you're just looking to pay some money and get something done, it's not going to be the same experience at all. It's that a transaction is important, and having a contract with all your suppliers is hugely important.
Of course.
But it's with weddings, it's more than that. So much more than that.
Yeah, for sure. And ultimately, the suppliers that are happy and enjoy embracing that, I think, are the ones that end up with these unmistakable brands that people know and love, because they've really let their personality shine. They've let their relationship with their couples guide their growth into being more of themselves. And ultimately you end up with these incredible brands that you think like, yeah, that's that person's work because I know it, you know?
Totally. And more longevity because they love what they do. And you're always wanting to try new things and be creative and do new things for your couples, and you're doing it out of a genuine desire as opposed to obligation. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, of course. I mean, ultimately, how sustainable a business like this is will definitely depend on that, because ultimately we all work really hard. We're all happy to work really hard, but we do. And how much you're willing to do that is definitely going to be dependent on how rewarding that relationship is with your couples. And in turn, that relationship is going to depend on how much of yourself you've let them see and let them fall in love with, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let them fall in love with you as a supplier. That's really really important. So we're kind of giving advice to suppliers and couples, which is really nice, because we are all in it together, and I think especially at times like this, I think that's what's been really rewarding, is that I've had couples checking in on me and seeing if I'm okay, and realizing that my business was affected, and this process, although it's been really hard for everyone, it's been quite affirming for me that I'm on sort of the right track. My clients are my ideal clients. They are the people that I gel with, that when whatever hits the fan, we're in it together, and we come up with resolutions together, and that's what it should be about. Hopefully going forward, there's not going to be anything quite as catastrophic as this year again. There's always little bumps in the wedding planning journey, so you need someone that's going to be with you through the ups and the downs, really, I think. Definitely.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I've seen, it's been so inspiring and humbling to see the wedding industry band together for each other, but also for couples. Just the amount of of support that suppliers are offering couples at the moment is wonderful, and I very much hope that that it feels, for couples, that it feels like they're not going through it on their own, because they're not. We're riding that roller coaster alongside with them.
Absolutely.
we're all going to be so excited on the other side.
We're going to be so excited, and all us creative types are just bursting with ideas, and
Yeah.
they're going to get the best work from us ever, I think, when it does come round. I mean, I've been trying new things. Like my poor cat and my partner are sick of having the camera in their face. It's just for the time to like try different things, and I've done a few webinars, and yeah, we're going to be all so keen to get back at it. You're going to have such a fantastic experience, even more so probably, you know, because
Yeah.
we're all rooting to get back out and do those weddings. So yeah.
Yeah.
So once this is all hopefully back to some sort of normality, what are your hopes? What are your plans with the Stars Inside?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I'm just really excited to um, keep keep bringing awesome weddings to couples. I'm doing more and more elopements, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
It means that I get to it's such a tight-knit relationship when it's just the couple and you and the suppliers. So I get to know them super, super well, and it's an even more heightened sense of partnership, which I really love. So I'm doing a few of those next year, which is really exciting. I also have quite a few destinations coming up, which I love because I love traveling. So once it's safe to, I'll be all around Europe, and I also have a fantastic trip to Africa next year for work.
Wow.
I have an elopement out in Namibia, which is incredible.
That's exciting.
So a lot of traveling through me on the horizon, which I love. And just generally, I guess, continuing to find ways to build my brand sort of from different perspectives. So whether it's offering more kind of digital content like through my website, and I'm also putting together a few new bits that people can sort of download, like helpful supportive texts and checklists and things like that. And so just kind of creating different levels of support that people who maybe don't want to partner with a planner full time can hopefully make use of.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I've just started a podcast as well, which is really exciting.
Of course, yeah, we need to make a podcast.
So I guess I'm just going to keep learning about that because I'm very new to it, but just keep trying to improve that. Just keep going, really.
Fantastic. And like you say, a lot of your journey in life has been quite organic. So things will happen when they're meant to, and it will all sort of gel and sort of, exciting. Really exciting.
Oh, thank you, Rob.
I'm looking forward to following you and seeing what you get up to, and listening to your podcast, which is called The Stars Inside as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's the same name, The Stars Inside the podcast, and you'll find it that way. It's really, I think it's in such an infancy yet that it's still kind of growing into what it will be. But it's conversations, for between suppliers aimed at both, inspiring and educating couples, but also just shining a light on all these amazing people in the industry. So hopefully it's a fun listen for anyone who happens to stumble on it.
Fantastic. And before you go, what is your online presence like? What's your handle for social media and your website address?
Yeah, of course. So you can always find me on my website, which is thestarsinside.com. And obviously you can find my phone number there, my email there, my contact form, lots of different ways to get in touch with me. And then I also hang out on Instagram a lot. So if you want to find me there, I'm at The Stars Inside. And the podcast has its own little baby new account, which is at The Stars Inside _ the podcast.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for chatting. I've really enjoyed listening to you and all your tips and advice and your story. So do check out Valentina's website because it's absolutely beautiful. The things and what she says and the visuals and everything is all spot on. So yeah, do go and check it out. But thank you so much, and hopefully we'll have you back on at a later date to talk a little bit more. But thank you for now. Take care.
Yay! Thank you.